Enrique Chediak, welcome to the craft. It's great to have
Thank
you,
you
man.
so much. It's great to be here. Thanks for approaching me for this. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. I just was telling Wanmi this morning, I showed my son the trailer for Minecraft. He's 6 years old, and he was just like giddy as could be. I imagine there's a lot of kids worldwide at the same
Yes,
thing.
I went with my daughter and her friends yesterday to the screening here in Brazil. It was a lot. They liked it. It's a lot of fun. It's an entertaining movie. But the people in the theaters were going crazy and repeating the lines and standing up and clapping. So it was interesting to see that.
Yes, it has to
That's
be. It has
incredible.
to be something uh, interesting to be part of a phenomenon like that. Right? That's not a movie; it's a phenomenon.
Yeah, it has. Seems like it's becoming a phenomenon. But when you are
Yeah.
working in a movie in Minecraft, it's just working in a movie like any other movie. You don't think of this is going to be successful or not. You're thinking, oh my God, how we're going to solve this day, or I have double shadows, so I take the shadow out, and
Yeah.
that's you're constantly so much
That's
in the story, not only telling the story, but of solving the problems that actually for me the fun part is that. The fun part is being on the set. I love the set.
Okay, Enrique. So Minecraft is the last step in your journey. But what was the first step? Where do you come from?
So I was born in Ecuador. I lived in Ecuador up until I was 18. So in Ecuador at that time in the 80s, when I was growing up, it was impossible. Saying I'm going to study movies was like saying I want to be an astronaut and live in Mars. It was impossible to think even about movies. Movies were entertainment, and they were done in Hollywood. That's absolutely uh, very far away. So uh, when I was a teenager, I start climbing mountains, traveling through the jungles, through the indigenous communities, and getting a lot of interest in the geography and the history of my people, right? And that brought naturally to taking pictures, to photography. So I travel and take pictures, and that was my entertainment basically. And I also read a lot. I'm a avid reader. I love. I was discovering the boom, Latin American boom of writers, which is amazing. Alejo Carpentier, Jose Luis Borges, all those incredible writers. I was discovering all that. So I was a very avid reader and a traveler. So when I graduated from high school, I did what every other person in Ecuador did at the time: go and study medicine, uh, finances, and law, engineer, architecture. So I decided to go to do finances, and I went to Boston to study finances, and I lasted only 1 year. In Boston, one of my teachers asked me to do an exhibit of my pictures in the business school gallery. When I did when I did the exhibit, seems like it went well. So she came to me one day. She invited me for a coffee, and she told me, "You are not built for this career. You should leave this university and find something that you love doing." So that's what I did. I didn't know what to do. I went to Spain and studied photography in Spain. Traveled through Morocco like a month and change, taking pictures, being happy, and then I ended up in an institute in Chile, which was an underground institute because of the dictatorship, but it was an institute that had very very fascinating teachers and incredible students. And in there, I saw a movie, which changed my perception and made me want to do what I do now, which is Aguirre, the Wrath of God, Herzog's movie. When I saw that, I saw the mixture of a very interesting script, the story, my story, the Andes and the jungle, and I saw it was handheld. I thought it was possible. It was possible, and it touched me. Even though it was acted by Germans, it was my story. So I was absolutely fascinated by that, and then I said I want to do this. So I started working, doing art videos, a lot of art videos. Won some awards in France and here with art videos, and then I got a scholarship to NYU, and in NYU I did the graduate teach School of the Arts, and then I did my thesis film actually as a director was in the jungle as well, but. one of I did many theses as a DP. One of them, Hurricane Streets, won the Sundance Award for dramatic photography. It won Audience Award, Best Directing, and Best Photography for dramatic movie, and that started my career in independent cinema.
Wow. What a journey. It's similarly, it's like I, I went and studied marine biology. I was like, yeah, not built for that.
Yeah, yeah, we have to.
I'm gonna go make movies. That's funny. So you did a small. You said it was $400,000. Hurricane
It was
Streets.
$400,000.
Wow.
A friend of mine got the money. We did it in the streets of New York on the summer. Very free, very careless. It was one of the happiest times in my life. I couldn't believe that I was coming out of school. I just finished my thesis in the rainforest, and then I was shooting a 30 because at the time I was shooting 35 millimeter film with a little short lens for Hurricane Streets. It was like, oh my god, it was a dream.
It just solidified like this is what I want to do. Yeah.
Well, all NYU, we, all NYU solidified that because because I was a directing student, but I also was a DP student, and they considered me, they like my work, so they asked me to shoot a lot of films, all the short films. So I was very active DP in NYU, and I was just enjoying it like crazy. And because I was a TA, that's how I financed my NYU years. Because I was a TA, I did 4 years instead of 3, so that one more year of shoot a lot of films, and that was the only thing I care about. I realized very early that what I love is the set. So that and I realized very early that directors spend most of the times outside of the set, and what I like is the set. So I decided I'm going to concentrate more being a DP.
Did that Werner Herzog movie and that handheld and freestyle mark your beginning of a career as a DP, or is something that you just it was just a phase and you let it go? In other words, were you shooting like natural life and handheld for a long time, or it was just the beginning?
Not even the beginning. When I saw the Herzog movie, that's the big impression it caused me. So when I was doing my videos and all that, that was handheld or tripod and all that. The more I started learning about cinematography and I started seeing these beautiful moves and all that stuff, then I start wondering how do they do that? Then you realize, oh, you have a crane that do that. But when you're a student in Chile, you don't realize those things. So I was not obsessed about the handheld work or anything like that. I was obsessed with telling the story with movement. I was obsessed with movement. But there was a moment when I had a friend of mine from Ecuador, Sebastián Cordero, invited me to do a movie in Ecuador. And when I read the script, I said to him, this movie has to be 100% handheld. Everything, every shot has to be handheld. It called for it. And so then in that movie in Ecuador, I did everything handheld. And of course, I fall in love with the handheld and the freedom it gives you, and also how you dance, how you have the freedom to dance with the actors and push in a little bit whenever you feel, or pull back, or And it was a movie that was it has a couple of interesting action sequences. I hit the actors with the camera quite a bit, and they were not angry; they were happy because we were all like. But it was yeah. So that's where I applied that handheld aesthetic.
So from smaller indie handheld films to kind of the progression. When I look back through your IMDb and your resume lately, I mean, you see like some giant sci-fi, green screen, volume, visual effects heavy works. How went from your beginnings in indie like handheld cinema to that? How was that progression? Like, how quickly did you get to that point?
After I did a whole bunch of indie movies in New York, and actually I got a call from Robert Rodriguez to do the movie The Faculty. So at that time, I was doing $600,000 $600,000 movies, $1 million movies, and then The Faculty was 25. So that was my first really my first uh, how can I put it? My first knowledge of how to do a bigger movie, with bigger tools. And then I did a couple of, I still did smaller independent movies that with which content that I enjoy a lot. One of them being Boiler Room and The Songcatcher, all that stuff. And then I did my Chronicles in Ecuador, which I love. I love the process. I did A Home of the End of the World with Colin Farrell, Sissy Spacek, and Robin Wright Penn. I did a whole bunch of these movies. Then I did a movie. Then I did a movie that for me is very important as well, which is 28 Weeks Later, which was again a lot of handheld, but a much more aggressive handheld and a more of an expressionistic camera work, and it was also very free and instinctual and from the guts. So that movie really, I enjoyed it a lot because of that. And after that, Danny Boyle, which did some of the second unit, and also, he really liked the 28 Weeks Later. So he called me to do, along with Anthony, 127 hours. And that movie brought a lot of attention. Among those people that brought attention, I met with Lorenzo di Buenaventura. Lorenzo, which has become a great friend of mine, a good friend of mine. So Lorenzo said to me, "I want to work with you." So he sent me a few scripts, but I tell you something. I wasn't really looking for going into these big Hollywood volume green screen movies. For me, the drama, the independent movies were more what I came from. So I wasn't looking to do that, right? So Lorenzo sent me a couple of big scripts, but I wasn't ready. I didn't want to do them. Up until I went to do a very small movie in Mexico called Chavez, which was directed by the actor Diego Luna. And when I was doing Chavez, Lorenzo called me and said, "I have this script I want you to do," which was Red 2. And that was seemed fun. Seemed a lot of fun actors. Some sort of a little bit of a comedy, and seemed that it was something that I wanted to do. So I did Red 2, and we became good friends with Lorenzo. And then later on he called me for Bumblebee. In Bumblebee, I met with the director Travis Knight, which I loved working with him. He was a great guy, and I did Bumblebee. And I think Bumblebee was the beginning, the start to what gave me the possibility of doing these much bigger movies like Transformers, Race of the Beasts, or Minecraft, or. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I love about your work, Enrique, is that your cinematography never gets in the middle of the story. It doesn't. It serves the story always really well. Is that something that comes naturally for you, or it's something that you had to work on it and had a make that your style?
For us, for cinematographers, the most important thing is to serve the story, right?
I agree.
It's very important. And for me, I get bored very easily. So if I will be doing the same thing over and over, I'll get very bored. So what I do is I approach every film from scratch. I don't even take notes from my other films. So if I'm going to do a fire sequence in Deepwater Horizon and I have to do another fire sequence in Race of the Beasts, I start from scratch with different gels that I might find, with different things, with different methodologies that I might find. So because I think that it's very important to keep it alive, and I also think it's very important. Each movie has its own language. So if I shoot one like I shot the other, I don't think that's not my work. I already did that one. I have to approach the new material from the script, from the guts, and and approach it from there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's
Nice.
the way I work. Yeah.
So a conscious decision to try to switch it up and give each film its own voice. I know when I'm on set, I don't know if it's the same for everybody. Things get stressful. You fall back into certain patterns and ways that are comfortable, but to try to keep that at bay and be like, no, this is, we're doing something different. this is not that other movie that I did. That's a good habit to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like, I'm going to mention three movies that I did with this director, Sebastian. The first one, Chronicles, all handheld. That was militant handheld. Even the crane shots, I will be handheld on the crane. And the next movie I did with him was very composed, either now dolly moves or Steadicam, but no handheld at all. You know, one situation where the Steadicam was not fitting through certain things, I was really tempted to get to the handheld because I knew that I could with handheld do what I needed to do, but I said no. And we tried the Steadicam up until we got it. And the third movie was called Europa Report, which we did it with fixed cameras. We did it in the main spaceship. We put 8 fixed cameras, and we didn't touch them. Once we place them, that's it. And the whole movie plays with those cameras and the other cameras that play in other spaces of the in other spaces of the spaceship of the spacecraft. But you know, they were fixed cameras that we never touched. So three styles that are absolutely completely different, and that's like that in every movie, right?
There's there's one movie particularly, Voyagers, that it feels like you just lit the set and and let it go. Is that correct?
It's basically correct. Well, sometimes we have to bring little things for faces,
Yeah.
but we spent like a week and a half pre-lighting the set with the LEDs, and it was a long pre-light because you know there were big you know, we were doing it in Romania. There were sets that are considered, you know, not huge but big, so we had to put all of the LEDs and program them and make sure that we have everything on the program, and then start choosing certain colors with the camera because when you have those LEDs, you have infinite choices. So I really wanted to have the choices done. Me and the director and the gaffer and everybody do those choices like 3 days before start shooting. But it took a week and a half to get into that spot. So once you light the whole thing, then you're free. You let it go, right? Of course, like I tell you, certain close-ups you might have to bring an LED there or an LED here, or we had to do a moving light for sun. I don't remember which for you know a light in a crane for sun for in one sequence. But yeah, it was a very practical set.
So speaking of LEDs and kind of lighting sets and the wave that things have gone now, everything kind of moving in that direction. Are you a very techie guy? Like, do you get kind of caught up in the new cameras every week, the new lights, or do you focus more so on the story and the tools are just kind of there to serve?
Yes, I focus on the story. The tools are there to serve. You know, I am a huge reader, and I'm always with a big book by my side, and I watch tremendous amount of movies. I rewatch movies. I'm rewatching a lot of classics right now. I think for me that is much more important than to be aware of what light is out there. Because again, because of that process that I have. Let's suppose Minecraft. We arrive in Minecraft, and and the gaffer is going to know much. The gaffers are the guy, you know, he's going to know much more of what's out there and what's new than I will ever do because you know. So what I did in Minecraft, first of all, in Minecraft, I realized very early on that the big sets have to be lit. The daylight have to be lit with tungsten, have to be lit with maxi brutes, and even the ECLs, which were very strong lights that Storaro used to use. So we have to light everything with tungsten, and then we have to put the LEDs on top to create the soft sky. But what I did in that one, and what I always do, and I early on in pre-production, I asked my gaffer to do a show and tell of all the new lights that are out there, and and how can we use them? You know, so that's we do a full day of show and tell. So what is the characteristics of this ARRI, of this moving light? What you know, and once we do that show and tell, we start placing those lights in places in the stage, or we're using it for whatever we need, um, based on that day. And I'm pretty sure that Minecraft was finished April 2 years ago, like not last year, but the year before. I'm pretty sure in 2 years, there's many more options
Yeah.
of dimmer boards and of lights and all that. So the next movie, of course, if it's a big Hollywood movie, the next movie I'll do the same thing. What's new? What has changed in these 2 years, which is pretty a lot. And of course, cameras is easier because it doesn't change that much. But then you have the new Venice, which has a small body. Although I like the construction of the Arri Alexa. I like the way they they capture color and everything. I am dying to do a movie in film, either Super 16 or 35. I'm dying to do that. I want to feel grain. I want to feel the texture. Each time I go to see a movie in the theater and it's done in film, I am like, oh my god, ooh, that's fantastic. I want to do that. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe someday I will be able to do that. You know, the story has to take you there. You cannot go into Minecraft and say, oh, I want to shoot this in 35. It would have been a tremendous mistake.
How it, how if that opportunity arises and then there's some like a, let's say a smaller movie that and the director goes like, yeah, well, let's shoot in film. It's good for the storytelling. How much do you think that it's gonna improve the story just changing the format,
It's just again,
or it's just that nostalgia?
no, I do think for me, because I touch the screen with my eyes. I don't know. I can't control. The screen tells just the textures, and it's like, let's say, like I cook. I like to cook, so a lot of my metaphors are with food. But it's like having an amazing truffle pasta with a Coca-Cola, or you want that wine for that truffle pasta, right? So whenever the story permit allows you, and you have that beautiful grain there, it is really finishing the movie with perfection, right? And but again, the story has to permit you go there. Not necessarily is a period piece. It could be a very interesting psychological story or whatever, but it has to allow you to go there. In the sense that Minecraft would have been a big mistake because Minecraft has to have what it has, which is this digital look, right?
Yeah.
Again, I would if the Race of the Beast wouldn't have been so much CGI, maybe I would like to have done that in 35. That could have been a good movie. I think the textures in Machu Picchu and the textures of the 80s would have been great in cinema, in film. But it wasn't intelligent. So I will find the story someday that would allow me.
I,
What's
I
what's Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I think you and I, Enrique, are kind of the same age, and so I made my half of my career as a DP shooting film, and I'm just dying to shoot another film, with film, another movie with film. But I keep trying to convince producers and directors, let's do this in film, and it's always a budgetarian problem, and it's gonna be a lot of money, this and that. But I keep thinking, what's the big advantage gonna be? Am I pushing too hard for nothing? And my next movie, not this one, but the next one, I'm going back in charge and go, hey, let's shoot this in film. It's a thriller. It's gonna help the story. But I always have that thing that if it's not, is it nostalgia or is it really truly something that is gonna improve the movie? I have to find out. I guess.
In my vision, is there's few people like me that really reacts to that, and I am the one who is, you know. So for me, it's very important. Like I appreciate a lot. I don't know. I appreciate a lot. Christopher Nolan shooting on film. Again, the textures, the skin tones, it's just very different. It gives it a very, it's very different. There's one thing that Ed Lackman said, which was very beautiful when he did Maria, which I love. I didn't. The movie is okay, but his cinematography. I'm a big fan of Ed Lackman. I love. Yeah. So what he said is, when you shoot in film, the color temperature mix in a way that you don't know how they're gonna mix. So you put a green here and you put the daylight here, and somewhere there the film mixes it in a way that is almost you cannot control. It's almost aleatory, and that gives those. When you do that in digital, it's much more clear what's going to happen. So that and Maria was shot in film. It's beautiful. So I think it makes a difference. It's just that you have to have the story for that. So when you're looking at Maria, the images of Maria, you're immersed in this beautiful world that's whatever this world where she lives and all that. I think it's a huge difference that he did in the film. I don't think it would have looked that good in digital. So I think that there are stories that really will benefit a lot from film.
What was the last movie you did on film?
I That's a good question. I don't know. I think it might have been Red 2.
Ah,
It might have been Red 2. But I
Yeah.
remember, yeah.
nice. Yeah, you spoke earlier before the film conversation about the new, not to get too deep into tech, but the new Venice and the tiny little body. And Juanmi and I were talking about that the other day, and that just seems to open up a whole lot of storytelling possibilities and potential, in action films and rigging. And you see the photos with the DPs and the operators, tiny little handheld unit, almost back to a DSLR type thing, but obviously a tried true trusted system that you can really use and not get a jello shutter. So I'm excited for that, just from a operations point of view.
Yeah. I tell you something, when I did 28 Weeks Later, I use a lot of the Atom that you can put it on your hand. It's very, yeah. And I start operating without looking at the viewfinder. I just learned where the lens were pointing. And I was just operating, without looking at the viewfinder. Then I saw the take, and then, sometimes you had a little mistake, but that was part of the language of the movie. And that gave me a lot of freedom. Now, that's great, but I feel that a lot of movies are trying to do all these type of pyrotechnics, and it not always works. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's very important again to like this TV series. I'm going to talk to two TV series. Both of them are amazing because both of them work so well for what they want to tell, and both of them are opposite in the way they were done. One is Adolescence, which is pretty impressive how they did everything in one take and all that. Pyrotechnics, but it works. And then the other one is Ripley, which is spectacularly told story, beautifully shot, incredible piece of work. So it's a story. It's the language you're using, right? And yeah. Mm-hmm. I did work. Sorry, one more thing. I did work with the other Venice, the one that was still detached, but I shot that Voyagers with that because of the tight spaces, and because also the Venice had a very sharp texture that was good for Voyagers.
Yeah. Voyagers, by the way, for somebody who doesn't know, it's a sci fiction movie that happens entirely in a spaceship. That's why. You mentioned constantly operating the camera. Do you still operate the camera, or only occasionally? Do you miss it?
I miss operating, but with these big movies, I can't. It's just you. There's too much things happening in the whole world. The pre-lights and this and that, and 3 cameras or 2 cameras or whatever. It's I prefer not to operate in these big movies. I was almost, because it was a lot of handheld. I was thinking of operating in Deepwater Horizon, but then I realized, because we shot that movie so crazily, Peter Berg is so it's so unique in the way he does that I would have killed my I would have this it would have been very bad for me to operate that movie. So it was because we lived for 360 and we shot 360 all the time 360. So I had constantly to be doing the stop and working with the dimmers on the lights so we can balance everything, because it was crazy. It was a frenetic pace. So, but if I get to do another independent movie, which I hope I can do soon, And a small movie, of course, I would love to operate. Yes, I love operating.
You're just something we think about a lot and something we talk about a lot is everyone's prep process and the way that they get ready for a film. And I'm curious what you're specifically with some of these larger ones, but even going back to the beginning, how has your prep process evolved? What are some things you do to make sure, again, like a giant movie like Minecraft, it's got to be a ton to keep organized.
Yeah, the prep is very different for each movie, as you know, it's absolutely different. I always think that every director works with you in a very different way. So you are a very different DP each project you 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 work on, and the same goes for the prep. So in terms, for instance, in terms of Minecraft, a lot of the we did a lot of prep. We worked a lot with with these previews, so we can see where the sets are going to be built and how much camera we. So it was a lot. It was a lot about building sets and building sets actually also digitally in CGI. So it was a lot of information in that. It kept changing. Also the stunt guys came with ideas, and then we discussed these ideas and how to incorporate in the movie. So it was very collaborative in that sense, and yeah. But there's other movies that are like, for instance, in Bumblebee. Uh, I was much more active in terms of going and find the locations, for instance, because the production designer was so busy designing the robots and designing all that stuff that he didn't have that much time to go in to find the redwood forest or all that stuff. So I was very active in doing that, and I was very, very active in working with the director in the shot list. That didn't happen that much in Minecraft. So it's different in every location. I think that in the Race of the Beast in the Transformers, I was very active in selling the idea of shooting in Cusco and Machu Picchu, selling the idea of shooting in the Andes and all that, and working with the director in that sense. So every movie, it's very different. But what I like about the independent movies or the smaller movies. Is that what I like a lot about that is my conversations with the directors. That this I don't think this happens in the bigger movies. They don't. Only maybe Bumblebee, yes, but the other ones it doesn't happen that much. Which is to talk to the director about the psychology of each scene. We read scene by scene. I like the director to tell me the story of each scene. Okay, in this scene, this happens and this happens. Even though I've read the script many times, I want to hear from the director what's going on in this scene. So when he expresses that, I immediately come up with shots, and then we discuss the shots with the director. So in Voyagers, for instance, or instead of coming from this perspective to the house, I think might be better to the ship. I think might be better coming from this perspective. So I really like that process of discussing shot by shot by the director. But when you do these bigger movies, that gets lost because there's too many stimuli. The studio, the mojang, the script is changing. So you lose that one-on-one reading of the script with the director.
Do you normally start with pictures, with photographs, with something like that? But when you read the script for the first time and you start imagining in your head, okay, this is how the movie is going to look. Do you compile pictures, paintings, or no? You just
No, most of the times, we do that. I compile some pictures, some visual references, color, mixed color or compositions and all that, and yeah, no, definitely, that is a visual reference that we have to show and to discuss between the director, production designer, costume designer, and I, right? And so that's a very important aspect of it. Yeah.
do you lean? This is a curiosity. Do you lean more into photography or movies or paintings? Because sometimes I guess every movie is different. Sometimes one painting is the reference for the entire movie. Sometimes it's 200 pictures. At least for me, I don't know how's that for you.
Yeah, no, it's the same. It's the same. It's the reference you find. It's the reference you find. It's sometimes it's a paint. Sometimes it could be a painting, and sometimes I'm trying to think. Like in Deepwater and 127 Hours, the references were a lot of references were very abstract installations, like Bill Biola, which I love. And so it was interesting, very abstract, because we wanted to get into the psychology of this. And there was, there were, it was interesting that the references we came up with in that movie. So, but yeah, it could be anything, whatever it works. Sometimes even a piece of a description in a book.
Yeah.
I am working right now in a
Yeah.
project that I'm not going to mention because I'm very superstitious. But this movie is very hard to get visual references. Very hard, because it's very unique in its. So how to approach that world? It's So what I'm doing is I'm starting from the classics, the cinema classics, and just taking pictures of certain framings. I haven't shown that to the director yet because I haven't. But like I told the director, I think that we have to approach this very uniquely. And to do that, maybe it's better just to start from scratch, from the classics, and then develop on that. So yeah, it's a very interesting project because we don't know visually how we're going to do it yet.
I think that's a gift.
Yes.
When you don't have a reference and you have to build from scratch. I always say that it makes me really happy when I'm looking for a reference for a scene and I don't find it.
Yeah.
It makes me really happy because okay, now this is the world I have to create it from scratch, right? That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Yes.
I hate to bring it up, but I know a lot of people are doing it, and it's a new thing, and it maybe helps in this regard. But do you ever lean into or look at AI stuff for image generation, even as a starting point for, again, something that we haven't seen before? Or is that kind of, how do you feel about that?
You know what? I guess I am very old-fashioned in that sense. Pretty sure if I do another big movie, I might have to go into that. But if I do, I don't know. I like when the ideas come naturally. I like when I solved that. Like in a lot of, you know what? When I am in pre-production, I like to cook. I really enjoy cooking. I think it's similar to the art, to any art, because it's a balance of elements that create something, right? So this one has garlic and olive oil. This one has I don't know, cumin and sesame seeds or whatever. So and when I'm in pre-production, I cook a lot. So I come back from the office or the scout or whatever, go to home, and then I start doing something in the kitchen. And a lot of my ideas come in that moment. And I was like in this movie I did, The Lady in the Tramp. There was it was hard it was hard to light the streets at night because it was full of trees, beautiful trees. Savannah, Georgia is this gorgeous place, beautiful trees. But if you put any backlight in order to reach to the characters, the trees will be on fire. So it was impossible to light them. So I was going at night, walking. I was living in Savannah, walking in the locations, trying to figure out how I'm going to do it. And one day cooking, I realized, oh, this is how I'm going to do it. And then I finished my meal, went to the streets, and I understood. So what I did in these big trees, I put China balls with black wrap, so or with duvetine, with skirts, so the China balls will give me the light. But because it was black wrap, you don't see it because of the leaves. And then I put enough backlight just to bring the trees up, but not to light our guys. And that worked. There was a lot of work putting all the China balls in all the streets because they were long, but it worked great because you never. It was good. It was a really good way of lighting it. So again, it's those things I like when it comes from my process, and I know that AI is going to come into my life. I am just delaying it a little bit.
I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So, Enrique, one thing that it's unique in your career, I don't think there are many DPs that we've done that, is that you shot a movie hand in hand with with another DP. You shot 127 hours with Anthony Mantle by design. So, it's my understanding that Danny Boyle chose to hire two DPs to shoot the movie alternately to have different vibes, different styles together, and make the movie more intense. How that how did that go, and what did you learn from that experience? Because it's if anything,
Unique.
it's absolutely unique.
There is this TV series disclaimer, Alfonso Cuarón, that he chose two DPs, one to shoot one story and the other one shoots the other one. But that's definitely not Danny Boyle's idea for 127 hours. What he wanted was, I think he wanted a little bit of chaos, but what he wanted was, he felt that we are going to be stuck in this canyon for a long time with James Franco, and he thought that having visions, two different visions of this, will help a lot to give it more spice to the story. He also, it was very interesting because when we served, one way or another, we served like second unit directors in a way, because when I was in the canyon, Anthony was doing the end of the movie that unfortunately didn't make it because it was what happens after he leaves. But when I was in the canyon, Anthony was doing that, and when Anthony was in the canyon, I was doing the beginning of the movie, when he picks the stuff and the drops and all that.
Mhm.
Again, those drops, Bill Viola. Uh, so um, so so I was doing that and came to Danny and showed him, and go back, do other things. I mean, well, Anthony was in the canyon. So 1 week was Anthony in the canyon, 1 week was I. One interesting aspect of of 127 hours as well. Well, we did the pre-production, all of us, obviously. Me and Anthony shared a lot of. I shared a lot of. You know, we tested the cameras together. We showed the references. We were working together all the time. Although we knew that we were going to be very separate in our own thing whenever we're doing, and whenever we're shooting. Uh, so another very interesting thing was that we didn't know which scene each one of us was going to do because the script was constantly changing. So we have to scout and prepare for absolutely the whole movie as if we were shooting the whole movie, because suddenly on Tuesday the schedule changed and I was going to be doing another thing and Anthony was going to be doing the thing that I was supposed to be doing, and I was going to be doing this thing that Anthony was supposed to be doing. So it was interesting. One thing that I it was, I learned about, every DP has a very different approach, and Anthony has a fantastic visual approach. But Anthony relies a lot for the logistics in the gaffer, and I am very interested in logistics as well. Where to light, how to light, where to bring the equipment, and all that. So I had more discussions with the gaffer than with Anthony in that sense. With Anthony's gaffer, I had a gaffer. I don't remember his name. He was really nice, from Utah, and Anthony brought his gaffer from Denmark. And so a lot of the discussions about logistics and all that was me with the gaffer instead of with Anthony, and the static discussions was with Anthony. So it was a lot. It was very interesting, and it was very physical. All the end of the movie, I had to do a rappel with James Franco, and we rappel, and it was a lovely project. And the most lovely thing is working with Danny and the freedom that Danny gives its cinematographers. That's the other reason that this works so well between Anthony and me, because Anthony really tells you what he wants in a way that just sips underneath you. I don't know. It just tells you in a way that you become very enthusiastic about things, and you come with millions of ideas, and he pushes you very subtly to go into that frame of mind. It's very unique the way he works with you, and how the way he inspires you. It's a gift. So you just start living in the movie, and trying to bring the best of what I, of but he doesn't discuss with you about shots oh, he just puts you in the canyon with James Franco and said, okay, action, and then you have to go there, or so he doesn't. It's much deeper the way he talks to you. Not about shots. It's about it's. I don't know how to describe it. There's one documentary I saw on this filmmaker that I love, which is Krzysztof Kieślowski. I think it was Irene Jacob or it was Juliette Binoche. I don't know which one of the actresses, but in the documentary, they were speaking about Kieślowski. She was speaking about Kieślowski, and the DP was speaking about Kieślowski. And she was saying that it's amazing because he never speaks, but his presence guides everybody. And and the DP was saying the same thing. He's there with his cigarette, not saying anything, but his presence. They feel his presence guiding everything. And I feel one way or another, Danny Boyle. The way he inspires you is like similar, like to that. I think.
I watched the movie yesterday again because I didn't know. I knew that you and Anthony shot the movie, but I thought the classic thing where, I don't know, somebody gets sick and it needs to be replaced, something like that. And when I read this past week, just prepping this, that you guys shared the movie, I watched it again. And I watched it like trying to find out who shot who, and it's impossible. It's you guys were like one. It's impossible. Basically, I guess that you guys achieved what it had to be achieved. Is that you both told Danny Boyle's story properly, so it blends.
Exactly. And there's there's a few things. There's scenes that I shot half of it, and Anthony shot the other half of it, right? And that's two things I can tell you. That speaks to Danny's presence, as I'm telling you. The powerful presence that guides you, even though it's just your instinct. But that also, I'm pretty sure Danny will be very disappointed with that comment because what he wanted was to be very different. he even wanted me and Anthony to each one of us grade our shots. So, and Anthony was completely against it. I didn't see that as that bad of a thing. I could, an experiment, but Anthony didn't want it. So we ended up, both of us grading, Danny did a pass, Anthony did a pass, I did a pass, and we came to the consensus which is in the screen right now. So, but yes, it was, and again, because we both prepped the movie together, but there's one thing we share certain things. I came to Anthony and Anthony came to me with certain things that have to be done. I don't remember all the examples, but I tell you one of my examples. For a long time, I was supposed to do the scene when he cuts his arm. So I start prepping psychologically. What had I do? So we use these cameras, these little cameras, aside to case, right? But when you use them without gyros, you have a little bit of a pulse. You feel the blood in the camera. It moves in a weird way. So Anthony made me promise that I will never use that camera without the gyros, which I break that promise in a couple of times. But when the script mentions that he touches the nerve, I start pressing the camera like this, like just pressing it a little bit. And when you press the camera a little bit, the image goes like, shakes like that in a very weird way, right? So I start doing that with my hands. Say, oh, this is the perfect feeling for the nerve. So when I went to Anthony and said, if by any chance I don't do this scene here, there's one thing that I really, really want you to do, and do this, press it. And at the end, he ended up shooting that sequence, and he ended up doing exactly that, pressing the thing when he touches the nerve, which I thought it was very effective. So it went vice versa, and then, yeah, it was.
So that's just the fighting against the gyro, trying to stabilize, and it
No.
it just can't do it.
No, the camera was always a gyro, and you flow with the gyro.
Yeah.
You take the gyros out,
Yeah.
and you just have the camera, which is a small camera.
Oh, you had fully handheld.
Fully handheld, and just press it. Just press it like this,
Nice.
and the camera shakes like that. And
It's like if the
Yeah.
sensor shakes when you press it, right?
yes,
If the sensor does this when you press
exactly,
it.
it was like
Oh,
this.
that's great.
So that's what it gives you a sense of the nerve hitting. And I was,
Oh yeah.
and then, so yeah, it was. There's a lot of stories like
So
that. I don't
who
remember that much.
in a situation like that, who mutual consensus or what? But who chooses the lenses? Who comes up with the idea
We
of,
can.
hey, we're shooting on this set?
That's a good question. We came
Yeah.
together actually with the lenses. We came together basically. Yeah, we came together. We Anthony did before with these cameras. They were not easy to work. They were very hard to work at that time, as side to case. Anthony came with he did some of the, I don't know how much, but quite a lot of the Indian movie, Slumdog Millionaire, with those cameras. And so he brought the idea of using them mixed with film. So we shot a lot of 35, and we shot some of those, and we shot a lot of those cameras, especially in the canyon. We built the canyon, but Danny didn't want a millimeter of any wall to be moved. He wanted to shoot in the canyon as it was. So those cameras were very handy for that, and those cameras came with its own lenses, right? They were prototypes. So, and then for the movie cameras, I think we shot with very regular. I think it was Cook Series 4, something like that. So, just by the decision of doing the SI2 case, the lenses came with that. But
Got it.
if we would have chose different formats, each one of us would have chosen the lenses.
And I wonder if Danny Boyle would, press you. Hey, Enrique, you choose your own lenses. Anthony, choose your own lenses.
Choose your own camera. Choose your own format. Yes.
Yeah. Love it. Are you a big lens snob?
I like
or,
lenses.
lens enthusiast?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I am. I work a lot with Panavision, with Dan Sasaki. I love lenses. I think that gives, again, like I was telling you about the grain in film, the lenses also give you the bouquet you use, how soft or harsh you want them to be. Like, in Voyagers, the camera and the lenses were very harsh. And Bumblebee, I use these lenses, beautiful lenses that Dan Sasaki had, that were open to 1.4 and were very, very soft, and each lens was different from the others. So you start, like, for instance, on her close-ups we use the 50 at a 1.4. On the robot's close-ups we use the 35 at 1.4, and you start using lenses for everything, but the lenses are different from each other. I really enjoy working with lenses, and I wish someday, I don't know. Again, each story tells you have to. But I would like to try someday to work with those very old Russian lenses, and that are somewhere in a dungeon in Russia or something, because there's a beautiful anamorphic lens.
They're next to the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes, yeah.
Don't you think that the lenses make a bigger difference in your image than 35 or digital or Alexa or Venice or whatever? The lenses are the real deal more than the format?
Well, I think that all of them put a little bit of flavor into that ceviche. Lemon is important, cilantro is important, yeah, and in Ecuadorian ceviche, orange is important. So if you don't have that equilibrium, it's not a good ceviche. So I think that all of them are part of, all of them are part of this. Yeah.
Nice. And everything's better with wine. Yeah.
Yeah. I am going
Well, I mean, speaking of, again, your cooking metaphor and the seasonings in a ceviche, how important is the seasoning of color in your mind? And how do you work with colorists?
No, it's super important. It's you work with color all the time, right? You work with color with the production designer. You work with color with the custom designer. You work with color with the colorist. It's all of that is absolutely important. So, and I try to start working with the colorist before getting some lots before we start shooting. But definitely, color is a part of our work. So I try, because I grew up in film, like Juan me. I try to do the most amount of work beforehand, right? Meaning, try not to leave things for the DI. Of course, we do, and we spend a lot of time with the DI, but try to at least think that you're not going to leave things for the DI. The only movie that I have worked towards the DI, it was just everything was going towards the DI. The way it was shot, it was thinking to go was to the DI. Was 28 weeks later. That movie was completely, use the DI as a tool, not only of color correcting all that, but as a tool of expression as well.
Because the way you shot it, because everything was handheld and super punk.
And also because we wanted to really touch certain things here and there. Yeah. Yeah. There was a few scenes at night. Oh, we did a few scenes that were day for night that had to be worked in the DI. So there were a lot of things that we planned when we were shooting to do it later in post. That the eye took us like, and the other thing we did in that movie, that in terms of color, but as in terms of texture, most of it was shot in Super 16. When we saw 28, when we were talking about 28 weeks later, and I remember I saw 28 days later in a movie theater in New York, which was a big movie theater. I don't think the digital hold up in that big movie theater. I didn't. It started breaking. So when we were prepping 28 weeks later, the director and I talked about the digital, and I said to him, look, I don't know if the digital, this happened to me. So we did test with the digital, and we did test with the Super 16, and then we ended up really liking Super 16. So we said, okay, we're going to go with that. But we did the test, and we will go to one of those huge cinemas in Leicester Square to see the projection of the Super 16 projected in the digital projectors. And start seeing that it holds. So we were doing the grading, and unfortunately, I had to do a grading in a small screen. We didn't have a big screen that we're supposed to have. We were going to be doing the grading, and we're supposed to have a big screen for us, but they didn't have that big screen for us at the time. So every day at lunch, we will go to this huge cinema and project pieces of things that were filmed out, so we can make sure that it translates well to the big screen. And it ended up working very, very well.
Wow, again, that's a problem that becomes a luxury suddenly, right?
Yes,
because who doesn't want that opportunity to?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that I love about your work, Enrique, is that every movie that you shoot looks different to the other. Like so do you choose different colors for every project, or you normally use the same one and just find different looks with that person?
There's various reasons why you choose a colorist. If I could work with only one all the time, I'll do it. I don't think that the difference in the looks of my movies comes from the colorist I use. I think it comes from the concept that I work with. So we have nowadays. There's so many great colorists. Sometimes you choose a colorist for what you think the personality between the colorist and the director is going to be. There are. And in the case on Deepwater Horizon, Mr. Nakamura did the first pass, and then I went to New York and did the second pass with Stefan Sonnenfeld. It's just the way it worked. It happened. But if I could work with one, I'll be happy. But because of different political or creative issues, you end up working with different ones, right?
Yeah. Is there, going back through your resume again, is there anything that you haven't done that you're just like itching to dying to do? Some genre or some setting or story that you haven't been able to tell yet? You're like, man, just waiting for that.
I don't know. It's an interesting question. I would like to do something. Well, I don't know. On one hand, I would like to do something very simple, dramatic, good drama, good human story, very simple. On the other hand, I would like to do a movie with one lens and one camera, and try to minimize no lighting, try to work only with natural light, one lens and one camera. You know, that would be. I would love to do that. Uh, And then I think sometimes the more limits you put to your concept, the more free you are within those limits. So I don't know. I don't. There's not a particular genre, but I would like to. I really want to do something human. I want something close up, face, human feelings, drama. I think I'd like to do that.
So you have the luxury of working with directors from South America, from Europe, from the United States, different cultures, different approaches to making movies. Uh, do you feel that that shows on the movies that there is a different approach to art depending where you were have been born or not?
Oh
An
yeah,
artist is
definitely.
an artist.
No, I think so. Yeah, it comes with the culture, right? Or like when, yes, definitely. Of course, there are movies that show more than others, but definitely, sometimes you feel like 28 Weeks Later. It's even though it's directed by Juan Carlos, which is Spanish. It has a tremendous British presence there, and yeah, it's definitely you can feel that.
And do you have a favorite of the three? South America versus Europe versus the
Oh
US?
no, all of them are, all of them are very lovely in its own way. They're great in its own way. You know, the American way of working, separating grip and gaffer, it's fantastic, incredible. The amount of equipment you have there, it's fantastic, it's incredible. Then you have the South American way of working, which we don't have a lot, but people do anything. They're creative. They climb trees. They hang themselves from whatever to get to the shot, and it's just pure adrenaline and pure love of work. It's great, and then the European way, in its own way, is a little bit in between both in a certain way. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to revisit what you said earlier about kind of creating limitations in a box to work in. Did you find yourself on some of these larger films? Maybe we'll just bring it back to Minecraft as the most recent. Were there self-imposed limitations or boxes that you guys set? Or was it, kind of we have every tool and everything at our disposal, so the world's our oyster?
No, if the world will be your oyster, it will not be a successful project, I think. And you always by choosing something, you eliminate the other choices. So yeah, but there was one interesting thing in Minecraft where the director wanted to shoot everything very square on, which is something that we as a DP we just don't like. That we are like, oh my god, Jesus Christ, we're getting all the time square on. But at the end, he was completely right. It's a Minecraft movie, and the way he shot it, he wanted to shoot it, and he did it. It's what it makes sense for the movie. But it's very hard sometimes with that. And I'll give you two more examples. One, this movie, Europa Report. We choose. I'm talking about the main spaceship, because we have again other cameras that are supposed to be found footage. But once we chose where to put the cameras, 6 months before we start choosing, we chose where to put the cameras. Those cameras didn't move. But so you are completely, your choices are completely made 6 months before. There's no more choices to be made in camera. But the spaceship gets more and more destroyed, by landing and all that. And as the space gets destroyed, the cameras also get affected by that. There was and there was a couple of shots there that I love, that I think they're amazing, that never in my life I would, not now, not before, not after, I will ever been able to have conceived them. And one of the shots is the camera is there, the, the spaceship shakes, lands bad, and a door opens in front of the camera. So I would say 3/5 of the frame is covered by this door, and you only see two little parts on the top. And there's some action that happens in the spaceship, and just see the action in that top. And oh my god, I was like, when I was seeing
Yeah.
that, I was like, oh my god, maybe this is the best shot I've ever done in my life, and I will never be able to do that myself. It was just an accident. And
Yeah.
there was another thing that I did in that movie, which I'll tell the director. There was the last monologue, or the last monologue before the ship is completely destroyed, and with the last person of the crew is talking like this right now to a computer, right? And I told him, I, I told the director, I want that shot to be completely out of focus. And he was like, "Are you fucking crazy?" And said, "No, let's do it, please, let's do it. Out of focus, much more interesting." And he said, "Okay, well, let's do it." He and I worked together very good. So I chose the lens. That's the only camera, that was also done with the SI2Ks, because we have to carry the cameras in the spaceship. But I chose a specific lens for that shot, which was a 10 millimeter lens, Arri. So when the camera does this, that's the only thing that we affected. Of all the cameras, when the spaceship moves, because we had it in the gimbal, moves and things starts destroying, all the cameras that fall on the floor and all that, that's what they were. But that one, I knew that was what's going to happen, which is when the thing starts coming like that, there's something that goes in front of the lens, and the focus goes there. So that's the justification for this monologue, to be this woman talking to the camera and explaining what's going on, to be completely out of focus with this scene in the foreground in focus. So that was
Wow.
but we took our decisions. This is our playground. That's it. That's our playground. So yeah.
That's incredible. That's got to be like nerve-wracking, though. You're sitting there 6 months before, and just as we normally shoot a movie, you're constantly correcting, making decisions, tweaking, better, and to not be able to touch anything. I'm sure. Oh God, I wish. Oh, if we just would have.
Yeah, but you see, but then with the things that you see out of frame are as important as the things you see in frame, right? So when I was prepping
exactly.
the movie, the director wanted like 20 cameras, and I said, "No, man, we have to be brave. We have to, you can't. We have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point? The point is, So we had that discussion. We ended up with 8 cameras in the main ship, and so I went early to design the ship with the production designer, to place with him and the director where the cameras are going to be. So I was like 2 weeks working in New York with that. Then I left, and then I came back a few months later when the ship was built, and then we started lighting it and placing the cameras and all that. So yeah, but it was what? It's just fear, right? So once you take that decision and said, okay, this is going to be the cameras, they're going to be here. We just go with it, and it's freedom. You just embrace the mistakes, embrace all that. Huh?